It was supposed to be just another awards show. The kind where Hollywood pats itself on the back, actors give long speeches nobody really listens to, and political jabs fly like cheap confetti. The crowd inside that velvet-draped theater had no idea they were about to watch a train wreck, one that would ripple across America for days. On that polished stage stood Robert De Niro, a man who, once upon a time, had been known for legendary acting roles. But in recent years, it wasn't the movies he was remembered for. It was his obsession with attacking one man, Donald Trump, and by extension, everyone who dared to support him. He adjusted the microphone, leaning in like a boxer sizing up his opponent. And with that signature scowl, he opened his mouth and launched into yet another anti-Trump tirade. "You people don't get it," he spat. "Supporting that criminal makes you just as guilty." The Hollywood crowd? Oh, they loved it. Champagne glasses clinked, plastic smiles stretched wider, and the carefully manicured celebrities nodded along like obedient students in a classroom. But here's the part they didn't show you on mainstream news: Middle America was watching. Florida was watching. Pam Bondi was watching. And unlike the cocktail-drinking elite in that theater, Pam wasn't about to let this slide. Within minutes of De Niro's rant hitting social media, phones started lighting up across conservative circles. Fox News anchors leaned forward in their chairs. Conservative radio lit up the airwaves. Twitter threads exploded with phrases like, "Enough is enough." De Niro attacking Americans again. Pam Bondi better light him up. And oh, she did. Not with cheap insults. Not with the usual media fluff. Pam Bondi came with truth. And she brought the receipts. Robert De Niro likes to play tough guys on screen, Pam said on live TV that night, her voice calm but sharp. But here's the thing about scripts: they don't make you brave. They just make you loud. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. De Niro standing under spotlights, dripping in Hollywood privilege, surrounded by people who hadn't worked a regular job in decades. Pam Bondi, sleeves rolled up, hair back, surrounded by the American flag, speaking not just to conservatives, but to everyone sick of being insulted by elites who've never walked in their shoes. And that's exactly what made this moment explode like gasoline on a bonfire. The left thought they owned the conversation that night. But they didn't count on Pam. They didn't count on someone standing up for the folks they mock every day. And here's the key part. Pam wasn't defending Trump because he's famous. She was defending Trump because she was defending you. The farmers. The small business owners. The single moms driving home late at night after double shifts. Real America. And for every insult De Niro flung that night, Pam answered it with something stronger: pride. Patriotism. Reality. What De Niro didn't realize is that every time he opens his mouth to insult Trump, he's not just attacking one man. He's attacking the entire backbone of this country. And this time, that arrogance backfired in real time. It's easy to talk tough, Pam finished, when you're surrounded by waiters and assistants who laugh at everything you say. And with that, the clips of Pam's response flooded Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble like a tsunami. And the comments? They weren't quiet anymore. Pam Bondi just nuked him on live TV. This is what standing up for America looks like. Pam for VP. But here's the kicker: Pam wasn't even done yet. Because as the left scrambled to do damage control, and Hollywood tried to spin it like they won the moment, Pam was just warming up. And what she did next? That's when things really blew up. Robert De Niro had no clue what was coming next. While he stood on that velvet-lined stage, soaking in the applause from his Hollywood friends, the rest of the country was watching with a very different reaction. They weren't clapping. They weren't laughing. They were angry. And you could see it happening in real time. Social media feeds were flooded. Not with praise, but with frustration, disgust, and fire. People who had never even heard of that awards show were suddenly talking about it, because of one reason: Pam Bondi. It's funny how the elite coastal media always underestimate middle America. They think nobody's paying attention. They think they can insult people's values on national TV and just move on like nothing happened. But not this time. By the time De Niro was off that stage, Pam Bondi was already going viral. Fox News wasted no time. Tucker's team was already clipping the footage. Podcasters were shouting her name on live streams. Moms in Missouri were sharing it in Facebook groups with captions like, "Finally, someone said it." And Pam? She wasn't gloating. She was focused. "I'm sick and tired of these self-important actors pretending like they speak for the average American," she said firmly in her interview later that night. Robert De Niro's not brave, he's a millionaire lecturing truck drivers and teachers from behind his security team, Fireboom. Another direct hit. Fire. The thing that separated Pam from the usual talking heads was simple: she didn't just speak for herself. She spoke for every person who's had to sit quietly while celebrities mocked their way of life like it was some cheap joke. And the left? They panicked. CNN scrambled to fact-check her comments, trying to twist the story to protect their Hollywood darling. MSNBC pretended like it wasn't even happening. But the problem was, it was too late. The clips of Pam's speech were everywhere. De Niro destroyed by Pam Bondi was trending on Twitter/X. Even some liberal commentators reluctantly admitted that Pam's response was brutally effective. It was one of those rare moments in politics where the tables turned instantly. What started as a room full of elites clapping for themselves quickly turned into a national embarrassment for De Niro. And Pam? She was just warming up. Here's the part most people didn't catch: Pam didn't just respond to De Niro's Trump insults. She responded to something deeper. The sneering contempt that Hollywood constantly throws at every American who works hard, loves their country, and believes in basic decency. It wasn't just about Trump. It was about respect. "You don't have to love Trump," Pam said calmly, "but don't you dare look down your nose at the men and women who built this country. Without them, there's no stage for you to stand on." At that moment, even people who weren't huge Trump fans found themselves nodding along. The debate wasn't about red versus blue anymore. It was about elitists versus the people who make this country run. And as the night went on, it became clear that the left didn't have an answer. De Niro didn't post a reply. His PR team stayed quiet, hoping it would blow over. But Pam? Pam kept going. She showed up on every conservative outlet that would have her. Newsmax. OANN. Talk radio across the country. Clip after clip. Share after share. View after view. By sunrise the next morning, Pam Bondi wasn't just a headline, she was a movement. And the backlash against Hollywood arrogance wasn't just online anymore. It was in diners in Iowa. It was on farms in Nebraska. It was on factory floors in Ohio. De Niro might have owned the stage, but Pam Bondi owned the country. But just when you thought she'd said everything there was to say, Pam pulled out one more card. One that nobody saw coming. By the next morning, it wasn't just conservative media carrying Pam Bondi's words anymore, it was everywhere. Even liberal outlets, usually allergic to anything remotely pro-America, couldn't ignore what was happening. Clips of Pam's takedown of Robert De Niro were spreading like wildfire, cutting across political lines, blowing up Facebook groups, Telegram channels, and even sneaking their way into TikTok and Instagram feeds. "Pam Bondi just body-slammed Hollywood," one viral caption read. The elites can't recover from this one. But while the internet was still reeling from the first round, Pam wasn't done. She knew something the Hollywood elite didn't: when you're fighting for regular Americans, you don't stop at the first punch. You finish the job. That's when Pam pulled out what can only be described as the knockout blow. And she did it not with cheap insults, but with something that cuts far deeper: cold, hard facts. See, Robert De Niro loves to rage about Trump and corruption, but Pam reminded America of one glaring problem: Hollywood's silence on actual scandals happening right now in their own backyard. Where was Robert De Niro when California lost track of billions in COVID relief funds? She asked sharply. Where was his righteous anger then? Where's his speech about holding those politicians accountable? You could almost hear the silence coming from Beverly Hills. These weren't baseless attacks. These were questions with teeth. Pam continued, "It's easy to throw stones from behind the walls of your multi-million-dollar mansion, but the people De Niro insults are the ones paying for his bad movies and bloated speeches. Fire." That's when the shift happened. Fire. What started as Pam Bondi claps back at De Niro suddenly became a national conversation about Hollywood hypocrisy. It wasn't just about Trump anymore. It was about how out of touch these celebrities had become. Pam's words resonated because they were true. Everyone knew it, but nobody on TV had dared to say it until that night. Meanwhile, De Niro's silence became more awkward by the hour. His PR team didn't know what to do. Do they issue a statement? Do they try to clarify his remarks? Or do they stay quiet and hope America forgets? Bad news, Bobby. America wasn't forgetting. As the backlash grew, even some Hollywood insiders started whispering online, maybe he went too far this time. Bondi's not wrong about that COVID money. Pam, on the other hand, was calm, collected, and relentless. She didn't gloat. She didn't brag. She just kept doing interviews, appearing on shows, calmly reminding America what this was really about. "This isn't about a Hollywood actor versus me," she said. "This is about respecting the Americans who get insulted by these speeches every year. They're the ones I'm fighting for." And you know what? People believed her. Because they knew she wasn't reading off a teleprompter. She wasn't hiding behind stylists and handlers. She was speaking directly to them, the truck drivers, the farmers, the single moms, the veterans, the factory workers. The forgotten Americans. Robert De Niro thought he could insult millions of people with no consequences. What he didn't expect was to get handed his ego by a woman who wasn't afraid to fight back with facts, with grace, and with the full weight of the American working class behind her. And here's the part that hit hardest: Pam didn't just win a media battle. She revealed Hollywood's weakness. They can deliver monologues on stage, but they can't stand up to truth spoken plainly by someone with nothing to lose and everything to protect. The storm wasn't over yet. Next came the celebrities trying to jump in, thinking they could save face. But little did they know, Pam Bondi was ready for all of it. And what she said next? That's when the gloves really came off. By the time the internet had fully erupted with Pam Bondi's takedown of Robert De Niro, Hollywood was scrambling. What started as one actor's ego-filled rant had become a national embarrassment. The Hollywood press machine went into full damage control mode. And then? The predictable happened. Other celebrities started chiming in. They couldn't help themselves. Like moths to a flame, they drifted toward the controversy, convinced they could somehow set the record straight. But instead of putting out the fire, they poured gasoline all over it. The first to jump in? Alyssa Milano. "Pam Bondi's just bitter because she's irrelevant," Milano tweeted, pairing it with a smug selfie, like she'd done something impressive. Wrong move. Pam didn't even flinch. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need profanity. She had something much more powerful than angry celebrity tweets: facts. "It's always the ones who lecture America from gated communities who call the rest of us irrelevant," Pam fired back. "I don't care about your fame. I care about the waitress working double shifts who just got mocked by Robert De Niro on live TV." A fire instant viral moment. Fire clips everywhere. Fire conservative Facebook groups were on fire. And here's where it got even better. Pam Bondi didn't attack Alyssa Milano personally. She attacked the entire mentality of the Hollywood elite. That's what people connected with. Pam didn't sound bitter. She sounded protective. Protective of normal Americans. Protective of the people who never get a voice on these stages. The next one to step into the ring? George Clooney. Yep. Good old George thought he'd bring reason to the conversation. In an interview with Variety, Clooney smugly said, "I think it's hilarious when failed politicians attack successful actors. Let's not pretend Pam Bondi's opinion matters to anyone outside of Fox News." And again, Pam answered. Calm. Cool. Surgical. You're right, George. My words don't matter to Hollywood. They matter to the welders in Ohio who pay taxes while you sip cocktails on Lake Como. Mic drop. Explosion. Even people who didn't love politics were now sharing Pam's clips, not because they cared about Trump, but because they were tired of being talked down to by Hollywood snobs. The internet was split, but not the way you'd think. It wasn't left versus right anymore. It was elites versus everyone else. And everyone else was standing with Pam. Meanwhile, Robert De Niro? Still silent. No statement. No apology. Nothing but awkward glances from his publicist in New York as the story got bigger by the hour. Even late-night comedians, usually quick to defend Hollywood, stayed weirdly quiet. They knew this wasn't one of their usual safe topics. Pam Bondi had hit a nerve. But here's the moment that really flipped the script: veterans started speaking up. Clips of former soldiers, small business owners, and even teachers were popping up across social media. I'm not a politician, I'm just an American tired of these elites calling us stupid. Pam Bondi's right. We've had enough of this arrogance. And just like that, what started as one woman standing up for America against a Hollywood actor became a grassroots movement. People weren't sharing it because of Trump anymore. They were sharing it because they wanted their dignity back. They were tired of being mocked, tired of being belittled, tired of the lectures from the cocktail circuit. Pam Bondi had tapped into something powerful. The silent frustration of millions of Americans who work, pay taxes, raise families, and get zero respect from the very people who make millions off of their movie tickets and merchandise sales. And every time another celebrity tried to throw shade, Pam didn't flinch. She focused on the truth. She fought with grace. And most importantly, she fought for the people who never get a voice. Hollywood thought they could crush her. Instead, they made her stronger. But if they thought Pam was going to stop after a few tweets and interviews, they were dead wrong. Because what Pam revealed next would take this controversy from just another online spat to a full-blown national scandal. By now, the controversy wasn't just a trending topic, it was a national moment. From diners in rural Tennessee to union halls in Michigan, everyone had seen the clips. Robert De Niro's sneering rant on that glittering stage. And Pam Bondi's firestorm rebuttal that left the Hollywood crowd stunned. But here's what nobody expected: Pam wasn't finished. As if shutting down De Niro and Alyssa Milano wasn't enough. As if handing George Clooney his ego back on a silver platter wasn't satisfying enough. Pam dropped one last truth bomb. And this one was aimed directly at the heart of Hollywood's fake activism. She pulled out the receipts. Real ones. Let's talk about where the money really goes, she said live on national TV. Let's talk about the celebrities who give lectures on inequality, from their private islands. Let's talk about the actors who rage about the environment while flying in on private jets. And let's talk about how none of them, not one, lifts a finger for the working-class Americans they insult every award season. Fire, that was it. Fire, game over. Fire. Pam Bondi didn't just win the debate. She ended it. Even people on the left, the ones who normally couldn't stand anyone on Fox News, were now whispering, she's got a point. Meanwhile, De Niro's silence was deafening. The more he refused to respond, the worse it looked. No apology. No clarification. Just the empty echo of a self-important speech falling apart in real time. And Pam? She wasn't gloating. No, I told you so, no screaming victory lap. Just calm, steady truth spoken directly to the American people. The best part? It wasn't about her. It was about you. The factory workers. The truck drivers. The single moms who don't have time for lectures from millionaires in tailored tuxedos. Pam stood in front of that camera and reminded everyone what the fight was really about. This country isn't run by actors. It's run by Americans who wake up early, go to work, raise their families, and respect this flag. Crowd reaction? Insane. Comment sections everywhere? Pam Bondi for president. Finally, someone said it out loud. Hollywood's finished. And in that moment, it became clear Robert De Niro had the stage. But Pam Bondi had the country. Because while the elites play dress up and pretend to care, Pam spoke from a place they'll never understand, reality. By the end of that week, the headlines had flipped. No longer was it De Niro destroys Trump, it was Pam Bondi destroys Hollywood hypocrisy. This was no longer about one award speech. It was about a nation waking up. A nation tired of being mocked. A nation ready to push back. And as the media kept scrambling to defend the indefensible, everyday Americans were standing taller. They weren't afraid of Hollywood anymore. Because they realized something powerful, they didn't need celebrities to validate them. They only needed each other. Pam Bondi walked into that moment not as a celebrity, but as a representative of millions of voices who've been told for too long to sit down and be quiet. Not anymore. Not after this. And that's why this story wasn't just a viral clip or a passing headline. It was the beginning of something much bigger, an America that's finally done listening to lectures from spoiled millionaires. And as for Robert De Niro? All he was left with was his expensive tuxedo. And a cold, uncomfortable silence from the very people he thought would always have his back. Pam Bondi stood tall. Hollywood shrank back. And America, the real America, finally stood up for itself. If you're tired of Hollywood's arrogance and ready to stand with real Americans, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who's had enough of celebrity lectures. Let's keep speaking truth, together.